Why do Mondays suck? This is Dive, a podcast about where our Google searches take us. I'm Cody, and I'm here with my friend Dan.
Hey.
And Dan, I have a concern.
What's that?
Today's Labor Day, Monday, September 2nd.
Okay.
But it was still a Monday?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the problem in itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know you had off. I did not have off. And like every other Monday, I have an issue with the day and then kind of what follows in anticipation of.
Yeah. What one might call the Sunday scaries.
Yeah. The Sunday scaries lead to a case of the Mondays.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's just the classic 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking here is like, there's all this stress around Monday, anxiety on Sunday, loathing on Monday. Why is it that way? Where did it come from? And why is Monday the beginning of our week?
I think for those lucky few out there that just happen to have jobs that they love, and I feel like that is such a small number here in America in 2019, there's no Sunday scaries for them. They're just on all the time. They're ready to rock. They get up Monday morning, they get dressed, they eat breakfast, they go to work, their wife or husband makes a beautiful 5-course breakfast for them. They grab one strawberry on the way out and say, "Sorry, hon, gotta go." And they go to work and they just love their lives because they just happen to be in a beautiful job that they love. We don't have that privilege. And I think that's the difficulty here.
I have a bigger question here.
Yes.
How unappreciated are those spouses?
Yeah.
Like, I just took a bite of my toast and a sip of my coffee and I left. I'm out. I'm busy. I'm making the money out here. I know that you got up 2 hours before me and you cooked all these delicious dishes, but I gotta go.
Literally put the pancakes in a short stack on the plate, butter on top, melting, bacon on the side, perhaps some home fries. And it's like, oop, one strawberry, gotta go. No, it's not okay.
For those people, Mondays suck the worst.
Yeah, F that. Anyway, how did this start is the question. And I think there's a couple answers, historically, culturally. Not every culture has Monday being the first day of the week. In fact, a lot of cultures, even the calendar that most Americans use, you know, you always have to caveat that with the star, most star. I think a lot of people look at Sunday as technically being the first day of the week, but for us who work 9 to 5 or just work during the traditional work week, we consider Monday to be the first day of the week.
Right. Because you have Saturday and Sunday are the weekend.
Right. And then historically, week start would be Monday, the first day of the week.
Do you think that that's just the case because of like religious roots of a country, not necessarily the people?
I think so. I think that, you know, from what little Googling I've done on this topic, you know, as I dove into that rabbit hole, I got very distracted, and we'll bring up these kind of things that I got distracted by. But the first thing that I found is that it's more and more common these days to consider Monday the first day of the week. And so it all ties into like this religious thing, right? So for most Christians, Sunday is observed as a day of worship and rest. It is the Lord's Day. It is the day of Christ's resurrection. So that is celebrated as, the first day of the week. But it doesn't really make sense that it's the first day of the week now on our calendars. It feels like the last day of the week because we start a new week on Monday.
Correct. And also, I can change it in my Google Calendar for it to appear like Monday is my first day of the week, which I do.
Oh, you do? I didn't even know that was an option.
I've switched it so that I can see Monday as my first day of the week because I want to see my weekend together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it all shows up on my computer screen at work too. Mm-hmm. So like I can pull up my calendar at work and I just see the work week and not have to scroll left and right to be able to see everything else.
Right. So I was looking further into this, and what's interesting is that the international standard, so ISO 8601, and I'm going to talk about this in a second because this is cool stuff. That standard, international standard, places Monday as the first day of the week, regardless of what you believe in and what your history and culture and religion says. International Standard 8601 places Monday as the first day of the week. Yet all of our calendars, every one of my calendar, even the Hot Drop calendar on my wall, shows Sunday as being the first day of the week. It doesn't really make sense.
Listen here. Who is this ISO? Because it sounds like some future super government secret entity that is like working behind the scenes. You're like, haha, we'll show them. Nah, Monday's the first day of the week. Fools, they think it's...
Let me tell you about the ISO. And I think actually this deserves its own episode. But ISO is one of the biggest, most twisty rabbit holes that I fell down into as I started researching Mondays. ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. And yes, I know this sounds weird, but they're French and they switch those words, so it's IOS, not ISO. But it is the International Organization for Standardization, and it was formed in 1947. And what they do is essentially decide which things should be standard, as simple as that sounds. So what they do is they go through and they create specifications, they create documents, they create requirements, they create guidelines, things that essentially ensure consistency. And
what is this across? Like manufacturing or just like global economies or businesses? Like, I don't understand.
Literally everything. So we're talking about things like, global economies, like you say, like even down to the level of shoe sizes and wine glasses.
What?
Yes, exactly. So if you look on your box of shoes, you'll see, US size 10, UK size whatever. Essentially, there is a standard for how big a size 10 is in each of these different countries.
Who agreed to this? I mean, it's brilliant.
164 countries agreed to this. They all opt in.
What if somebody opts out?
Yeah, right? Chaos ensues, pretty much. So some of the standards...
Is really, really interesting to think that there is this is like the Legion of Doom, right? But like good-hearted, probably. They're all sitting in a room being like, shoe sizes! How could we mess with people today?
It's pretty much exactly what it is. It's people sitting down.
We'll make it easier to buy socks.
It's people sitting down and deciding, like, based on the human needs and everything else, like, what should this object be consistently and throughout the world. So even things like traffic lights, what are the photometric properties of the 200 millimeter roundel signals? Basically, I don't even know what half of those words mean, but it's essentially a standard for traffic lights that exists. There's a standard for wine glasses, the dimensions of a wine glass, things like length, curvature, capacity, how much it can hold. There's a standardization, ISO 13289 for recreational diving services, the requirements for the conduct of snorkeling excursions. There's ISO, like I mentioned, ISO 9407, which is shoe sizes. There's also things that were named after ISO standards. So if you're computer savvy, you might have burned some CD images for, different types of software. And you've heard of the term ISO file. That literally stands for International... what is it? Literally stands for International Standardization of that certain file size. So they name things after the standardization. Also, ISO in film. That is ISO is named after its ISO number. So
that's insane to me. I feel like I know so much more about things that I've seen just by that one sentence.
It's crazy. I had no idea that there was people devoted for this. And what the even crazier thing is, this stuff isn't free. So if I'm a company and I'm trying to create something and I know that I need to follow international standards, I have to purchase the standards guide, and they're like $40 a piece for each standardization guide to follow this for my company, whatever I'm building.
That's the way to do it. Create something that people have to buy.
Right. That's genius.
Like whoever created the seatbelt and then passed the law to make seatbelts mandatory.
So actually, good point.
They probably used the ISO.
Volvo is the company that created the seatbelt, and they made it free for everyone on purpose so that everyone would be safe in their vehicles during crashes. Fun fact. I actually dug that one out of my brain. That was a
Whoa.
previous.
They made the seatbelt free. They didn't make it
the
so
patent was free.
Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now that the big companies that have to make seatbelts, they get that for free.
Correct.
But they're spending more on materials, which means that Volvo gets some money.
I'm sure they worked out a way to get money.
Yeah,
I'm not a pro here. I'm just an amateur Google surfer. But I also dug up one more weird ISO standard. I just wanted to mention this one. There is a standard, ISO standard 3103, which is all about the preparation of tea, a cup of tea. It's the correct way to brew tea. And the highlights are that the pot's inside edge must be partly serrated. Large pots of tea should not hold more than 310 millimeters of liquid.
Milliliters?
Say again?
Milliliters or millimeters?
Milliliters. Sorry.
Okay.
2 grams of tea per 100 milliliters of boiling water. And timing is also critical and part of the standard. It is 20 seconds for boiling water to cool and 6 minutes of brewing time. So there you go. If you pull it at 5 minutes, 30 seconds, your tea is not done by international standards.
What if there was a challenge on the internet to live by international standards for 1 week?
I bet you do it without even realizing it.
Probably. You have to, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're drinking your tea out of a handmade wine glass.
Yeah. Oh, they frown on that. That's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to do a whole episode on this. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. We might dive into this further. Yeah.
Let's.
You catch that pun there? Okay.
Yeah. No, I got that. No, that's good.
Cool.
So anyway, ISO has deemed Mondays as the first day of the week.
That is correct.
Right? Doesn't change the fact that my calendar says Sunday. So is there any historical significance to Mondays and why it is called that or seen as the beginning of the week in some cultures?
So Monday, as you might expect, well, maybe not, but when I read it, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Monday, it literally translates to day of the moon. And so I actually stumbled on another way to view the days of the week. And I'm going to butcher this, and I'm not a pro here. I'm not an expert in this subject. But
I don't think that we're ever going to be able to say we're experts about anything we talk about on this podcast. So if you have bad feedback, I don't want to hear it. Nah, I'm good. Thanks, though.
We do not proclaim to be experts in anything.
See you next Monday.
This is literally just our Google searches. In most cultures, pretty much everything, or most languages, I should say, they translate their word for Monday to be the moon's day or day of the moon. And so what I was about to say is the other way to look at it is looking up at the sky. So in ancient times, you would look up at the sky and see the sun, obviously, is the biggest, most prominent thing in the sky. So that represents Sunday, and then the moon being Monday, and then so on and so forth down the line, because I believe you can only see something around 7 planets. Technically, that would make sense. The math does add up there. 7 planets would equal the 7 days of the week. And so if you ask me anything beyond that, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that in some cultures, it doesn't translate to the moon's day. In fact, in Greek, it translates to second day. In Slavic languages, such as Russian, Croatian, Serbian, Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Polish, Czech, Slovak, and Slovenian, it translates to after Sunday / holiday. And in Turkish, the day translates again to after Sunday. So It's not always the case that Monday is the first day of the week everywhere. It's pretty weird. I think it's only with this modern day, view of the work week as we know it now, that now Monday is officially the first day of the week, but Sunday is still regarded as the first day.
Do you think that in those countries that regard Monday as the first day of the week, that they start their, or Sunday or whatever it is, that they start their weeks differently? Or do you think everybody at this point runs on a Monday?
I feel like everyone runs on a Monday schedule only for business purposes.
That's me assuming that every country would have a weekend,
Yeah, right.
That's ignorant of me to assume that.
Of course. I feel like anyone who's interested in doing global business, any country interested in that, which should be most, I would say, would consider Monday the first day of the week, because I think it's so much of it is business at this point. You know, with the stock market opening on Monday, they close over the weekend, that kind of thing. So many economies rely on that same schedule.
Did you know there's actually something called the Monday effect when it comes to like global business in the stock market?
No, what's that?
Yeah, so apparently there's this, I don't know if it's actually like a proven thing or if people just assume that this is how it works, and it tends to work out that way. But on Fridays, when the stock market closes, the Monday effect is that stocks will continue the same trend that they left off at on Friday.
Interesting. Okay, can you give me an example of how that would work?
So if stocks are, my understanding of this, if stocks are climbing at a steady rate on a Friday,
right,
starting Monday from that same spot, they will continue to rise until something changes.
So I'm not someone who's ever actually bought or sold stocks, but isn't it true that you can purchase stocks over the weekend that will suddenly take effect on Monday?
I have no idea, but that would make sense based on that Monday effect, right? Otherwise, it's just no shit, Sherlock. Of course, they're going to continue the trend because nothing has happened. But that would make sense that you can still buy stocks and sell stocks, I would assume, over the weekend. Yeah. And it will kind of keep going.
I think that makes sense, yeah.
I feel like, to me, if stocks are doing well on Friday, why wouldn't they continue on Monday?
Right, yeah. And unfortunately,
unless, of course, something terrible happens over the weekend and then it just crashes.
True. And unfortunately for us, on Friday, if we're doing well, we don't do well on Monday. That's the Monday effect. It's the inverse of that.
The Monday effect is much different in the poor man's world. I think that stocks are a thing that I don't quite get. Like even now, we see in America that our stock market is like 800 points or 600 points in a day, and then it's like they're like, we're in a recession the next day, and like we're down like twice that, and I'm like, I don't understand this, and I need to understand a little bit more about this, because you could probably make a ton of money if you paid attention.
I'm just so scared to invest and potentially lose the money that I have. That's the only thing that holds me back, and it's bad because I'm young, and now is actually the good time to use your money, let your money work for you. But I'm just so scared of losing things. I'm very risk adverse, which is going to hold me back as far as investing, I think.
Makes sense.
Anyway.
So we were talking about Monday and the origins of Monday and all this stuff. Did you know that in Old Norse culture, that any girl that was born on a Monday, they would name Mona?
What? Really?
Yeah. In Nordic cultures, Mondays were devoted to worshiping the goddess of the moon. And then girls that were born on Mondays were given the name Mona in ancient Britain.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was an Old English word for moon.
How many Monas are running around in those
I mean, none of them now because
now.
It was ancient Nordic culture. So.
Well, who knows? You never know. We were just talking about your name and how you hate it.
God, I hate my name so much. My name's the worst. So, like, I have this thing where I don't like words that I don't like hearing my own voice say, and Cody is one of them. So before this, we thought it would be a good opportunity for me to rename myself for the sake of the podcast so that people would just start calling me other names.
I still think that's not a bad idea.
It's going to come. I'm telling you, it's going to happen soon enough. I don't want anyone calling me Cody anymore.
It's going to be sometime around episode like 22. He'll just be Howard from that point on.
It will be probably an old man name.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's fine. So yeah, we're gonna rock and roll with that one.
Yep. Anyway, Monas on Mondays.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I wonder if that holds true for other days of the week too, or if they were just really into the moon.
Thursdays, they just named everybody Thor.
Yeah,
like the weakest guy around named Thor. Thor's looking pretty sickly lately.
But there's just so many Thors that it would take away the power of the name. It would just be like Steve. Just another Steve. Yeah. Any other fun Monday facts that you dug up?
Yes, actually. So I actually don't know anything behind this, and it was a little hard unless I wanted to dive into religious practices a little bit further. But in Judaism and Islam, Mondays are a day that people fast voluntarily. And so So the Sabbath, well, that's weird though, because I think the Sabbath is on Saturday in Judaism. And so on the following Monday, apparently you were supposed to fast for the day. And I wonder if that means like sun up to sundown.
Yeah.
And the same with Islam. Islam, I know, is Mondays and Thursdays. I don't know if Judaism is any other days, but I think that's pretty significant in one way or another. That would be something I'd like to explore a little bit more later on, is like different religions and religious practices and why they came about and where they're steeped in tradition.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a huge gap in my knowledge of, religions and cultures around the world. I mean, I know, living in Boston where I live now, and there's a lot of different people around of all different shapes and sizes, let's say. There's not a lot of people that I know that actively practice other religions, so I am kind of ignorant of that. I would love to deep dive into those things and learn more about the people around me.
So I was thinking, as we were researching, like, what is it that could actually back up that Mondays suck, or if it literally is just perception? Right? Is there any science to back up the fact that Mondays blow?
Right. And did you find anything?
I did, and then it led me into another weird place. So the first thing is that there was an actual study that by Marmite, apparently, which sounds, if it's the Marmite that I'm thinking of, that's a weird place to do a study.
Don't they make boots? Oh, it's Marmot. Sorry, continue.
The findings of the study indicate that many people don't smile on Mondays until 11:16 a.m.
Wait, what? Don't smile until 11:16?
They don't smile until 11:16 a.m.
That is bizarre.
I have a hard time believing that, because even if I am miserable, something's going to make me smile. Unless you are, again, Garfield.
Yep. Lasagna. No lasagna at 11:15.
That's a long time to go being unhappy, especially at the beginning of your work week.
That's really interesting because, like, smiling doesn't necessarily equate to happiness, right?
A lot of people smile that are unhappy.
Like, my wife could make me a fantastic breakfast and I would smile internally. I mean, I'd smile outwardly as well, but I would also smile internally. My stomach would be happy about that.
Rolling on the floor laughing.
Yeah. A little bit of raffle, a little bit of lull. I don't know. I feel like that's not necessarily a way to measure, like, I am happy. And so did they take that same study and move it into Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday?
That I don't know, because it just reported on any kind of Monday statistics. So it's really like, this isn't a great study, but again, it brought me to another cool place that I'll talk about in a minute.
Sure.
Also, half of us don't turn up to work on time on Mondays.
Oh, confirmed. Guarantee that. Yeah.
Because it's just Monday, which realistically, like, on a Monday, I don't mind if I roll in 5 to 7 minutes late. Like, I don't have to clock in. I'm on professional obligation. So I have to work an average of 40 hours a week. And if I show up a little bit late, leave a tiny bit early, take a longer lunch, like, it's perfectly within my right to do so. But at the same time, like, if business hours start at 8:30 on a Monday, it's going to be a lot harder to show up at 8:30 than it is on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Definitely.
Fridays are actually really easy. Because a Friday, if you're going to cut out or if you're going to kind of take it easy on a Friday, no problem. I can get there at 8:20 if you need me to.
Yeah, because you know that at the end of the workday, you're going home and you're off and you're free.
You can turn off for a while.
Yeah.
Those are always the easiest, though. I just so Thursday, I went to a Bills game with my kids for the first time, and that was really great. And then I had realized how burnout I was Friday from freshman move-in, training, all that stuff. And so I took the day off on Friday and kind of spent my time through the weekend, right? And usually we have to work through federal holidays and we get to bank those.
Yeah.
And so I went into work today and it was rough. I got there a little bit late. I think it was 8:39. And my boss came in and he was like, I think I'm going to cancel the staff meeting today. There's not a whole lot to talk about. And the weekend was pretty uneventful as far as the blotter report goes. And I went, that's cool. And he goes, I'm going to go home. And I went, you know what? Me too. so like I was there for 3.5 hours today.
Perfect.
But at the same time, that didn't change the fact that I had a crazy day.
Yeah.
And it was still Monday and I was still busy up until the time that we sat down to record.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
because like it's not just work at this point, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Like there's so much going on, and it is the beginning of the week because I didn't do anything Saturday or Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But Monday comes and you have to do things. There are things that need your attention. There are things that you've been neglecting. A lot of times it's work. A lot of times it's family.
Yeah.
And so like it still wasn't an easy day. It was still a Monday. I still was grumpy.
Do you get this thing where it's like if you take a day off during the week and you're out and about, like do you feel this like weird feeling of not necessarily guilt, but like this doesn't feel right that I'm walking around on the street at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. I should be at work. Like, does it feel different to you being out and about? Because it does for me.
100%.
Yeah.
And I live in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So like I will still see people.
Yeah.
Like I run into people that are going, shouldn't he be at work right now?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's a very weird feeling.
That goes to prove like that happened today. Like I was out at the store and I was taking care of stuff and I was making a bunch of phone calls and I was, kind of getting ready for this. The kids start school this week. So that was also kind of a stressor.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, I know it was cool. My boss said that like he was going too, but at the same time, I don't feel comfortable being home today. And I kind of didn't know what to do at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I kind of sat on the couch for like 20 minutes.
That's fine.
Like, I got to figure out what I'm doing. I got to figure out what I'm doing. I got to figure out what I'm doing.
So that is a very non-typical Monday, we'll say.
Yeah.
So typical Mondays, they suck. So did you have anything else to add to that whole idea that is it just the mindset or is it something beyond that?
So let me finish this study here.
Sure.
Mondays also tend to be fairly unproductive with about 3.5 hours of actual work getting done, which happens to be the amount of time that I was actually at work. And those who are 45 to 54-year-olds will moan about it 12 minutes a day on Mondays.
This is
making
so oddly
them
specific.
The most susceptible to suck the fun out of Monday.
This is so oddly specific. Exactly that amount of time that they complain about.
What this, you know what this sounds like to me? This was written by Mike Vardy in July 2011, right?
Okay.
I feel like in this, Mike is just like mad at Jeff in accounting.
Who happens to be, 40 to 44 years old or whatever.
54 years old. Like, I'll tell him, I'll teach this guy. You can go to hell, Jeff. Telling me about how much your back hurts on a Monday. You know what I had to do? I had to take my kids to work this morning. You know, you me complaining. Oh, God, I hate you, Jeff.
I only got time for one strawberry.
My wife slaved in the kitchen for 2 hours, but no, Jeff had to call me and tell me my W-9s weren't in order. No, go to hell, Jeff. So as I was finishing this article on this study, the second to last paragraph before it read off things to make Monday suck less, which I completely disagree with, was experts indicate that the reason behind our hatred for Mondays is a result of humans being, quote, governed by deep-rooted tribal habits.
Ooh.
And I was like,
that's
what?
Deep. What are some of those deep-rooted tribal habits?
Well, it didn't say, and it didn't even explain what they meant by that. And it said, like, we prefer to ease into the work week and then tackle things later. And I was like, well, that just kind of sounds like a cop-out.
Procrastination.
Which actually, it made sense based on their things to make Monday suck less, because their suggestions for making it suck less were, like, terrible things. It was like, watch TV, have sex, shop online, buy chocolate or makeup, plan a holiday.
I try to do those every day.
But like,
it's a varying degrees of success.
Those aren't actually, well, one of them is a healthy habit. But who doesn't love chocolate, right? But anyway, I was like, well, what's a tribal habit? And why would it be so deep rooted? Because like immediately I'm thinking like we're going back to caveman times and nomadic cultures and things like that. So I Googled this, right? This led me to one of the coolest things that has absolutely nothing to do with Mondays. The Strauss and Howe generational theory, also known as the fourth turning theory or fourth turning, was created by William Strauss and Neil Howe. So what they're describing is a recurring generational cycle in American history. This is what came up when I did tribal habits or whatever it was.
Okay.
So according to the theory, historical events are associated with recurring generational personas or archetypes. Each generational persona unleashes a new era called a turning, in which new social, political, and economic climates exist. Turnings tend to last about 20 to 22 years. They're part of a larger cycle, a seculum, a long human life, which usually spans however long people live. Or they can take longer than that. The theory states that after every seculum, a crisis recurs in American history, which is followed by a recovery period. During this recovery, institutions and their values are really strong, and ultimately succeeding generational archetypes attack and weaken institutions in the name of autonomy and individualism, which ultimately creates a tumultuous political environment that ripens conditions for the next crisis. So that's a lot. That
break that down for me.
Right?
I'm just
breaking this down. It's essentially saying that social structures in America specifically are very cyclical, and they'll reach different stages almost like clockwork. So essentially every generation, something bad happens, people kind of rise up and change something, they overthrow the last group, things are great for a while, and then another bad thing happens. But those are within an even larger one that lasts an entire human's life.
Interesting.
And so in our lifespan, if you were to assume one major event happened when we were born, we will then see 4 of those shifts if we live to be roughly 100.
What kind of major events are we talking about here?
That's a really great question.
Because, for some reason, and this is going wildly off topic, and who knows, we might cut this out. We'll see. So for some reason, my first thought was this whole movement right now, and I'll say movement loosely, of the helicopter parents, right? So you've got people, our generation, we are roughly 30 years old. The whole participation trophies, the whole babying our kids, making sure everyone feels included, all that stuff. I feel like that is something that is currently happening that will soon be overthrown by a previous way of thinking, which was tough luck, you lost. That's how it is.
So it's really interesting.
Are we talking about that or something else, something deeper?
Those would be considered the smaller ones, right? And so to take your way of thinking, and this actually ties in really well, and we did not plan this, this theory was picked up and is now highly regarded among higher education professionals because they see this on a quicker turnaround. And so this was picked up by...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So we get this in sort of a vacuum, right? We get these young moldable minds, and we see these students come in with different needs, and those needs change roughly every 7 years.
Just like your taste buds, which my mom says. Try chocolate today. You might like it. Might be 7 years.
So we'll see students come in as freshmen, and then about 7 years later, it'll be a totally different group of people that were coming in with totally different issues that we need to adjust to. And so kind of like the running joke around us, and I've just now seen my first iteration of this, is we'll introduce something new that's a best practice, and someone will say, oh yeah, we did that about 10 years ago.
Oh, cyclical.
And so we've got a guy who's now worked there for 30 years, and he goes, oh yeah, we actually did that when I first got here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Really, really interesting. And these things work, but you can't break the cycle. And so that's kind of part of this. You cannot break the cycle of how these things are changing based on this theory. It's just going to happen, and you need to adjust. And so one of the biggest ones that they state in American history is obviously the 13 colonies revolting against England, and how that started another big one. 1584, that started the first one in America, and so on and so forth. So you're seeing these happen. And so these two gentlemen have written books. They wrote Generations, The History of America's Future, 1584 to 2069, The Fourth Turning, 13th Gen, Millennials Rising, which I'm going to actually start looking into this and reading because I am so interested in this. And it is considered a pseudoscience. However, these guys are apparently super smart and well regarded. But this is something that I want to check out. And this all came from this weird scientific study saying that we are governed by deep-rooted tribal habits.
And at 11:16 is the first time I'll smile.
Yeah, so go and watch some TV, have some sex, buy some stuff online, and plan a holiday.
Nice. Dude, that's really interesting. And one more, not to beat the topic to death, but the other thing I just thought of, just popped into my head, was fashion. Like, there's so many cyclical things that happen in our society and culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, fads come in and out, you know, like what's in right now is what won't be in 5 years from now. But then we'll go back to something that was in the 80s, right? And so, like, 80s will come back. You know, there's always like that phase, that turning point where sometimes someone discovers that, or someone realizes that, oh, we should go back to how that was before.
Yeah,
you know, decades ago, and that becomes the new normal.
I feel like fashion when we were in high school started to kind of revert back to like a somewhat early 80s vibe, or late 70s maybe, but in a really bad way. I think early 2000s fashion was some of the worst fashion we've ever seen. But if you look at like a lot of the Gen Z kids now, or late millennials that are in their early 20s, I've been watching David Dobrik's vlogs for a few weeks now because I was really interested in like because a lot of college students are watching him, and I actually kind of got sucked into it because it's really entertaining and it's really cool. A lot of the things people are wearing now are similar styles to what people wore in the 90s.
Yeah,
like straight up like shorter shorts, higher socks, really bright, weird colored patterns, funky hats. Like, it's pretty cool. Tennis shoes are a big thing again.
Yep. I myself wear those Nike Kill Shots that so many people have, that are just like those vintage tennis shoes look. And actually, we're going way off topic now, but I was actually looking for shoes online, and one of the models of shoes that I really like and have always liked are Air Max 90s, which literally came out in the 90s, and they're still popular today. They're one of the most iconic shoes ever made, and they're releasing a 30th anniversary version that I'm totally going to buy in the spring. But yeah, it's like some fashion things kind of come in waves, but other ones seem to stick, and it'd be really interesting to look at why is that one model something that we still wear to this day and are super excited about the launch of a 30th anniversary edition that looks exactly the same as it did in the 90s. But why am I so excited about that? How is that one shoe that stuck? It's very interesting.
So crazy.
Yeah, very interesting.
And so now that we've complained about Mondays, talked about the background of Mondays, what we thought would be appropriate is at the end of every episode, we have some sort of takeaway so that everything doesn't seem like a jumbled mess in the end.
Nice.
We know that Mondays tend to suck, but what's probably most important is to understand why you believe they suck and do your best to change that, because we really only have one life to live. And whether you believe in an afterlife or you don't believe in an afterlife, you still only get one on this planet. So why not make the most of it? Don't work for the weekend. Don't dread the upcoming week. Figure out what's going to make you tick through that week, get you through, make you feel productive, make you feel worthwhile, and capitalize on that. Make yourself feel valued in any way that you can. For me, I like going in. I like engaging with people. I truly love working with students. I love my wife and my kids. I really, really enjoy my house and being here in my own space. And those are the things that I look forward to. And so if I can capitalize on the things that make me happy, I don't have to wait until 11:16 in the morning to smile.
Hey,
see what I did there?
I see what you did there. And I think it's the exact same thing for me. It's all in your mindset. It's all about how you perceive Mondays. You know, in society right now, we've got the Sunday Scaries movement that's taken hold of social media. You don't have to be a part of that. And I think the way that I am not a part of that is setting something up on Mondays that I'm excited about. And for me right now, that's streaming, playing video games and streaming with my friend Cody, aka soon to be Howard. Super excited because we know that every Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern time, I'm going to be on Twitch and I'm going to be playing video games with my friend. And so that is something that I get to look forward to every Monday, which makes, you know, the first 10 hours of the day suck a little bit less. So try to come up with some kind of tradition, some kind of thing that you do, whether it's buying a certain kind of coffee that you like, splurging a little bit every Monday, trying to go out to lunch with a friend, doing something like that on a Monday that will make you excited about waking up in the morning.
Love it.
Boom.
This has been Dive. Check us out every Monday. Like and subscribe. Tweet us at HDDive. We'll see you next week.